All right, let's go ahead and get started. First thing, we have the public forum sign-up sheet if anybody wants to speak to the council prior to the regular agenda items. I just grabbed it, so if anybody's come in since then and wants to sign up, anybody? Give you a chance now. Okay. Okay, welcome tonight to our city council meeting. Thank you for coming. We are going to start with, well, just want to recognize that all the council members are present tonight. And we'll start with an invocation, and it's my turn to offer that prayer, and then we'll have a pledge of allegiance led by Councilmember Lake. Our Heavenly Father, we come to Thee this evening grateful for this moisture that has fallen to the earth to bring the earth some water. We're grateful for the many opportunities that we have in our lives. We're grateful for the chance to live here in this community, and grateful for such wonderful people and such a wonderful place to live and to raise our kids. We're grateful for all of those who live in this community, in this city, and we pray that Thou will bless them with health and strength and comfort in their trials. We ask Thee to bless us tonight as we discuss these agenda items, that we will be able to have a good, productive discussion, and we pray that Thou will bless us with a good rest of the evening, and we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
The audience, please rise and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm glad to turn around and see the flag sitting there. It was a April Fool's joke last meeting. I don't know if any of you were here, but we pledged to the wrong flag last time. So prior to our regular agenda, we always have a public forum where we invite anyone who wants to speak or make comments with the city council members. We have two names who have signed up for the evening. We ask that you come up, when you come up to the podium, please state your name for the record, and then go ahead and start your discussion. First, we have Doug Allen, and then Andrew Felt after him.
Good evening. My name is Doug Allen. I have a couple of questions that hasn't been answered from before you took office and we elected a new policeman. One is the speeding that is going on down there on 89, 1600 north at that light, coming to Mapleton and going to Springville. That's the last light in Mapleton going north.
Yeah. So 1600 north and the highway.
Yes.
Okay.
I talked to John Jackson, and he put a box down there to find out the speed of the traffic, how many cars was going by and everything, and he gave that to a report here at city council meeting just before he quit. I was hoping the new chief would be here.
Yeah, he hasn't showed up yet.
Yeah, so I could talk to him, so maybe we can put that on another date.
For sure. And what we can do is we can after the meeting, we can get together and see what happened with that data, and we can reach out to you and speak to you specifically if you want, or have you come in specifically about the data.
He put that box down there, and that pretty well defined what's going on down there.
Yeah.
And I was in hopes that maybe something would be done, but it hasn't been yet. So it's a problem, and it's getting worse. So, and I don't know, maybe that new light that just opened up there may slow some down.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but.
So I just want to make sure we're understanding, you're worried about the speed of traffic on the highway itself?
Yes, on
Okay.
the highway itself.
Yeah, okay.
He said 50% of the people are traveling 15 miles an hour over the speed
Over the speed
limit.
limit.
And the other 50 are doing up to 90 miles an hour.
Up to-
90,
up to-
80, and 70.
Wow, that far over the,
Yeah, it's crazy.
wow.
The kids with their hopped-up pickups and that, and for some reason, it's a race to get to the top of the hill where it ducks into one lane. And it's just getting worse and worse, with more traffic coming. So if we could, we'd like to see something done down there.
Okay. Yeah, let's, if you're here for the whole meeting, I'll get with you and get your information. That way we can contact you
Okay.
after the meeting.
That'd be great.
For sure.
And then the other one we brought up, we're having trouble with the big trucks and their jake brakes down there. And we talked about getting a sign, a restricted brake area. And it was brought up that the state said the city would have to buy the sign and patrol it themselves. They would not patrol it, or they wouldn't put it up,
Yeah.
either one. So that's something that hasn't been addressed, and the city council was going to talk about it. And then I just haven't had a chance to get here the last couple of times. I don't know whether any of you's talked about that situation or not.
I do remember it coming up, and I remember the feedback from UDOT, that very feedback, that they were okay with the city doing it, but they were not in favor of or willing to come and enforce it.
Right.
But we
They
could-
was in favor of the sign,
Yeah,
but they said the city had to buy it, and then
Yeah.
the city has to enforce that.
yeah, okay.
So,
Well, I don't think the city council's had a discussion about it since then, but we'll make sure it happens.
okay. And then the other thing, I would like to request that the city council put a halt on building permits at this time until our water situation seems to improve a little bit. I think it'd be a lot easier to slow the flow now than it will be later. It's just something to consider before we get into a trouble.
So halt all building permits until the water
Well,
situation is
it doesn't
better.
seem logical to me to ask people to cut back on their water and conserve, and we're just keep right on building. Like that out the mouth of the canyon, holy smokes, going crazy out there, and they've probably already got their building permits.
Yeah.
So, but in the future, for a little while, I remember years ago, when I first moved up here, they had a moratorium on building, period. And so we don't need to get to that, but I mean, if we could just slow the building down a little bit for a while. I don't know if that's something the city council's interested in or not, but something to think about.
Yeah. Well, we'll bring it up and have a discussion with the council about both the sign on the highway for the jake brakes as well as the
Great.
building permit
I
moratorium.
appreciate it. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks, Doug, appreciate it. Come on up, Andrew.
Hello, I'm Andrew Felt. I joined Mapleton Youth City Council for the first time this year, and it's been really fun so far. I'm here tonight because I've heard some rumors about a potential plan to split NYCC into two separate groups, a service group and a government group. And as someone who's currently on NYCC and wants to continue on it for the next 2 years, I wanted to ask for more info on the split and also kind of explain why I believe the split would take away from what makes this program so powerful in our community. Before joining the Mapleton Youth City Council, I wasn't especially interested in how local government worked. I joined because I wanted to help serve my community. However, because our group is unified and stuff, I was exposed to the government side of things, and I've realized that local government is actually far more interesting and impactful than I imagined. If we split into two groups, you lose that bridge of government service. You'll end up with a government group that's disconnected from the heart of the community and a service group that never learns how the city actually functions. Along with that, our executive council would lose the opportunity to see what it's like being on a council and working together for the community, just like our Mapleton City Council. and they wouldn't have anyone to lead. If they're not willing to serve the community, well, then why would they deserve to make any decisions that would affect our community? Also, almost nobody in NYCC knew about this split until just recently, even though we are going to be the people that are most affected by it. Last night, when someone mentioned the split, pretty much everyone in the room mentioned that they didn't like the idea. So we want to ask to not fix what isn't broken. The balance we have right now is exactly what inspired me to get involved. So I hope you'll keep us in one group.
Thank you for giving us your input. I appreciate that. So we are actually planning on tomorrow. So tomorrow night, we have the MICC meeting tomorrow night, right?
Mhm.
So we're planning
Yeah.
on coming to the executive meeting as well as the group meeting and giving kind of a rollout of the idea of the new plan for next year, and then answering any questions. So as far as bringing forth some more information, we're going to do that tomorrow night. Are you going to be able to be there tomorrow night?
Yeah, I should be able.
Okay, super. So hopefully tomorrow we can answer and clarify and get your guys' feedback as far as your questions and concerns. But yeah, there's been a lot of background work on this for a lot of years and working up to what we've got today. So we're hopeful that tomorrow we can explain what's going on and clarify some things for you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for coming. It takes a lot of courage. Appreciate it, Andrew. Okay, that's all that's signed up for public forum, unless there's somebody else that came in late that wants to speak. Okay. Okay, we'll close public forum and move on with our regular consent agenda. So our consent agenda is for items that are just routine in nature and usually don't need a lot of discussion. And the council can vote on all of the consent agenda items all at once to kind of speed things up. But I wanted to mention one thing about item number 2, which is a consideration of a resolution to approve the contract with Caliber Contract LLC for building the bike park. If you look through that staff report, you'll see the budget and the cost analysis for that. But since the staff report was created, we noticed that there was the construction contingency wasn't added in there. So a 10% contingency has been added into that contract since the staff report was printed. We still feel like it's fine to be in the consent agenda and be voted on all at once, but we just wanted to make sure everybody understood that 10% was added. The 10% is a contingency for construction in the case that there are unforeseen costs that would slow down the project and need to come back to the council. So that, and also just for the record, that 10% added in still keeps the total cost within the original estimation of the cost of the project. So with that,
Just one more add to it. It's pretty common to do that in your projects. So.
contingencies are almost always added into big projects like this, especially giant projects like this. So just making sure that it was in there was a good catch. So just want to make sure everybody understood that before we vote on it. And if there's not any questions about that or any other consent agenda items, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Jake Lake and a second by Councilmember Jones.
Egbert, yes.
Well, yes.
Like, yes.
Heck, yes.
Jones, yes.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Moving on to our action items, we have consideration of a resolution adopting the Mapleton City Transportation Master Plan. We had this come before us a couple months ago and have since went back and delved into the transportation plan a little bit more and a little further, and we're hopeful that we have made some adjustments that are going to be better for everybody in the long run, the whole city and the residents. And we're now bringing it back for the council to review and potentially vote on. So with that, I'm going to turn the time over to Rob to maybe turn the time over to Jeremy.
I am going to turn the time over to Jeremy, but I'll be available for any questions if there
Okay.
are any.
Okay. Perfect. Again, my name is Jeremy Searle with WCG. Really excited to be here tonight with the council. I know we've been here a few times over the last several months. Reported on initially the scope of the project, and what we were doing, and our public outreach and the survey and all that. And then we've come back since and talked about our draft plan and things like that. We'll talk a little bit about the specific change from last time in just a moment, but I do want to just comment that this has been a really good process, and it's been good to meet with the residents, to hear from them, to plan for the future, for the transportation infrastructure in the city, and we've had some really good wins come out of this. One of the more prominent ones, as you can see on the screen there, is as we were going through the master planning process, we identified several locations where we can make improvements to safety. And as we did that, this one in particular on 12th North, we said, this would be a great candidate for HSIP, or Highway Safety Improvement Program funding. And so as part of the master plan, we applied and used some of the data that we had gathered as part of this, and applied and got over $1.7 million for the city to implement a roundabout safety improvement project here. And so we're really excited about that. That'll be finalized. That funding will be finalized in June, and then that funding becomes available in 2029. And there's some steps to get it ready before then, and we've talked about those. But anyway, this is a really big win, right? This, just from this planning process, I think helping the city get that additional $1.7 million is great. And so just one of the many steps that we see starting to implement the improvements here. There's also lots of good roadway projects, intersection projects, sidewalk projects, safety, things like that, that we've identified in the plan. And we've talked about that a little bit as I've come previously. And I don't want to take too much of your time tonight, so I'm not going to go into the details on that. But just wanted to point those out. As far as tonight, I just want to give a little timeline of where we're at. Back in February of last year, we were approved to get going on this. And then by the end of the year, we had a solid draft and took that to council in January. And as we presented that, I think in general, there was a lot of good feelings about the master plan, but there was some concerns about the extension of West Maple, specifically between US 89 and Doubleday. And I'm sure you all remember that discussion. We had a lot of residents here that expressed their concerns. And so, and which is great, right? That's how this process is supposed to work. And so we appreciate that feedback. And we took that and we went back and did some additional analysis and said, okay, this is a plan for the city. We want this to work for the community, but we also want it to work for the transportation network. And so we looked at different alternatives. And as we found that if we make some intersection improvements, we can actually get rid of that extension between Maple or Doubleday and US 89 and kind of split the traffic, and it can go around Saddleback or down Doubleday. And as we make intersection improvements on either side of that, that'll help accommodate that traffic. And so that's how we've adjusted the transportation master plan, okay? And this was something that was discussed in February at the city council retreat. We had an additional work session in March and talked about that. And so now we're back here with those adjustments to the plan and want to share that with you. Also in our last meeting, there was a request to make some adjustments to the trail through Dry Creek between there, and so I'll show you what that looks like. So going back to the West Maple extension, you'll notice that now that connection between Doubleday and Maple Street at US 89 has been removed from the plan. We've got some potential future intersection projects, some potential future roundabout at Maple Street and Doubleday and Sunrise Ranch right there, and then down at Doubleday and Slant, and then a future signal up on US 89. And so that kind of splits that traffic, and they can go either way, and there's an intersection improvement there to facilitate those turning movements
to where people need to go. I'll pause there for a second. Any questions from the council on kind of the changes that we've made specifically to the Maple Street extension? Okay, great. Again, thank you for your feedback and for the direction that both the council and the feedback that we received from the citizens. I thought that was great. That was very valuable. And this just shows that if we do these intersection improvements and roadway improvements, we still get a good level of service, and kind of, as we split that traffic going around the loop there. Not quite as direct connection, but again, it works well from a level of service perspective, so that's great. All right, the other question and change that was made to the master plan is there's some questions about active transportation connections through here. So if we don't have a road connection, let's look at the trail through here. And the trail has always been planned to come through Dry Creek area, and so we just made some adjustments here to better plan that. And so we do have that connection now to, Rob, you're gonna have to help me out. Do you remember the name of this road here? Helen Street, or is it Helen?
Yeah.
I-
It is, yeah. It's written in there.
Is it labeled on there?
Helen Way.
Helen Way, thank you. So we've got a connection there, and then of course the trail that connects all the way through, so you can get down either toward US 89 here, or continue on the trail and head north there. So we do have active transportation. You can walk or bike or scooter through this. There just won't be a road, right, with all the traffic through there. So any questions here on the adjustments to the trail? Okay.
I will just make a note that there's been a trail easement in this area
Correct.
in the plans for a long time, with the addition of the little bit of that west portion, right? That's
That connection to
a little bit of an
Helen Way, yeah.
addition connection, right?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. There has always been an easement through there, and I believe that's to help the city accommodate storm drain. Correct, Rob?
Yeah, so as, with the Sunrise Ranch neighborhood, as those plats came in, there was a trail easement through there. As Fox Hollow came in, there is a trail easement in the back of those properties. And it is both for access, for pedestrian access, but also, city, the one connected storm drain that the city has does outfall here into the Dry Creek Hollow. And so that would give us an opportunity to do more maintenance if we have a paved trail there.
Great. Okay, so that's the adjustments that we've made since last time we talked. Again, we appreciate the feedback. If there's any questions on either those adjustments or any of the master plan, I'm happy to answer those. Otherwise, we hope that this meets your needs and hopefully can be adopted.
I just want to thank you for all your help and going back and forth with us on this. And I know you mentioned some of those timeline items, but there was a lot between those as well, right? So with Pioneer Day, seeking the public,
Yes.
seeking public opinion. There's the open house. So there was a lot more than just what was shown on the timeline. So just want to appreciate you and your company for helping out so much.
No, absolutely, thank you. And I didn't mention all the stakeholder outreach and the meetings we had with neighboring cities and the survey that we put online and stuff. So you're right, there was a lot there. And it was good to get that feedback from stakeholders and residents, so. Okay, all right, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeremy. Appreciate it. Okay, so this is an action item. We've already had a public hearing for this item, and so therefore we don't typically have another public hearing. It's an action plan, or it's an action item for tonight for the council to continue the discussion or to answer any questions and potentially vote on it. Are there any discussion items, questions, topics anybody wants to bring up? Or a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the transportation master plan with the revisions that have been presented today.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Beck and a second by Councilmember Jones. Roll call.
Bott, yes.
Blake, yes.
Beck, yes.
Jones, yes.
Egbert, yes.
Okay, it's unanimous, passes. While we're here, I wanted to bring up another topic on the specifics of this West Maple side. There's been some concern mentioned and discussed a little bit about the possibility of now that we know that there's not going to be that connection of Maple Street, there's some potential confusion and some safety risk of keeping that east portion of Maple Street named Maple Street. And the idea has been brought up to potentially change the name of that street at that point. I think Councilmember Egbert mentioned it. I also brought it up. There's been several times where our public safety has been responding to a call that far west of Maple Street, and the confusion of there not being a connection there and having to be able to go all the way around could potentially cause a big delay in our fire department and our police response to that area. There's some reasons, pros and cons to changing the name. It would be a big change, a big deal logistically to change the name of a street at this point. But we are a little bit early in the game, so my thought is if we're going to change it, the earlier the better. We just wanted to kind of get the council's thought on that. What you guys think. The idea has been thrown out there that if we do decide to change it, we could have some community involvement and maybe do some surveys or some contests where people submit their proposal for a new name, so that the residents in that area can have some ownership of the new name. What is everybody's thoughts on the idea?
I'd like to get the input of this public safety, but I agree. And then also, I do appreciate reaching out to the citizens in the area, especially those on that street that are affected,
Yeah.
to get their input. But
Yeah,
Okay.
the reality is, it's not geographically exactly on the zero line, so it could just be the usual number and not end up being a maple and just be what the number
What-
needs to be.
what it
But
falls
I'm
in, yeah.
very receptive to having a conversation. I don't necessarily have a dog in that fight, other than saying it doesn't make sense for so many reasons for that to remain West Maple when it's not ever going to connect anymore. So love to see future discussion and involve the community about it, but also figure out from a technical perspective what numerically that would be according to the grid system
Yeah.
for everybody.
Corey or Sean or Rob, I'm not sure who to lob this question to. What is that process?
The process isn't very difficult to change it. We just file an affidavit with the county for all those addresses. The issue is more with the property owners who have driver's licenses and
Okay.
bills and all the things that have been established with those addresses.
So it's
So-
critical that they are in the conversation from the very beginning and are part of that.
Yep.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just to add, I'd like to have more conversation, discussion about that as well, and understand the pros and cons better and the effect on the residents. But yeah, I'm supportive of going further with that.
Cool. Okay, then we'll put together some ideas, maybe a potential open house in that area or some kind of a community gathering to bring up the idea. Okay,
And I think we better have a really cool name if
Yeah.
we're going to change it to something.
that's why we were thinking let's let the neighbors, let's let the people who live on that street come up with the names.
Right.
Or just a number,
Or both.
or both. Okay, that's all we have as far as action items. We do have a discussion item for discussing specifics about Pioneer Days and the party in the park at Ira Allen. And so we'll turn the time over to Logan.
All right, thank you. So just want to give a little bit of context. So obviously, as the celebration has grown, so has the people coming, and then specifically on Saturday evening. And so there's been some discussions in the past on if and what should be done about that. And so that's what I'm here tonight, is to maybe just get some conversation from you as the council on if that is a priority, or if that's something you'd like staff to study out. So specifically Saturday evening, I think it's well documented that every year, the moment that we get something down, somebody's already set something out and/or days prior. And so we've tried to set kind of an establishment of, Friday at noon, or maybe it was Friday at 10. Last year, we went as far as to having a sign that literally was a big construction sign that said Friday at 12, and still Friday at 7:30, there was a brigade of people coming. As staff, we don't have time to sit and monitor and police it, and so really it has been an honor code thing of, we want to try to be respectful. At the same time, my thought is that we should try to find a system that hopefully benefits our residents outside of our non-residents. And so ultimately, that's kind of where I think the discussion should be had. We've also talked about the idea of a paid seating. We've talked about an idea of paid seating plus just open, free seating. There's also a lot of that conversation goes to how big of spots that people are saving. Last year there was some that were literally, we could go have our cornhole tournament on. It was just huge. And it seems like every year they kind of creep and get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then what we're hearing is then those folks that are saving them maybe don't show up until 10 o'clock. And so there's all this vacant space and people wanting to come in, but yet these big, huge spaces and nobody to sit. And so those are kind of the concerns that we're getting. Now, I will say, to put in perspective, we have 14 to 15,000 people in that park that evening. We're maybe hearing from 30 to 50-ish that are at least coming to us and letting us know of that issue. And so on a scale of thing, that's not a lot from a percentage standpoint. And so, I pose the question of what is the problem that we're trying to solve, just so that we don't create another issue by, maybe doing something. And then, again, just trying to get maybe what your priorities are as far as what you would like to see. As staff, what we would like to see is some sort of system, if we could, to prioritize our residents, to be able to have them have first right. But there's just so many things that, so many variables. So that's a little bit of context. I'd love to hear some feedback. And then, if there was the idea and thought of a paid seating, we can talk through some options there. But yeah.
Logan, based on your data, oh, sorry, Corey, go ahead.
I just say just one thing to add to that, and all of you get this. It is a little difficult as far as enforcement, because it's not like a football stadium or a rodeo ground where they have to enter a gate. So they could come from all four sides. So that's a little bit of a trick that we've run into in the past. We've discussed this. So.
With your data collection, what percentage of those people would you say are local versus, and I know people come from out of state or out of the city to be with family at the
yeah.
event. Do you have any sense of that?
Yeah, last year was about 40% residents down there. There's probably a way I could substantiate the data to know a little bit of how much was, family or traveling into town, but last year was about 40% were
So it
resident.
could be fair to say that 50% are tied to or are residents of our city.
I would say tied to, probably higher than 50%. But as far as participants at the park living here in town, a 50% is probably a safe bet. But like I know every year we talk to, the other officers, for example, that come, and they're like, that group of teenagers is my teenagers in my town, and it's Payson and Salem and Santaquin, and which is great. Obviously, we love especially our teenagers to come, because that's a safe space to come and be there, and, maybe they're not doing things that they shouldn't be doing because they're together. So, obviously we want to encourage those things. It's just, again, it definitely feels like it's ballooned a lot bigger than maybe any of us anticipated it being, and so.
Well, I have loved watching it grow for the last 20 years, when nobody came and the helicopter was literally 50 feet above the kids' heads. That made it even more exciting. I think you posed the right question, what problem are we trying to solve? I think we need to get really clear on that before bantering about other ideas. So, and I agree with Corey, I think paid seating sounds like a nightmare. But it sounds like some of the frustration that you've had from those few people has been around the saved seating that stays saved until the fourth quarter. And maybe that's an opportunity for some communication around.
Yeah.
But then again, it's an enforcement thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I know, like, I worked for Orem City prior to here, and we had an ordinance that was actually adopted for the parade specifically. Their parade was in the evening, and they were having issues with people setting up weeks in advance, and so they adopted an ordinance that said you can't set up until, Friday at 5 or whatever it was. And so, in talking with Chief Jackson prior, then now with Chief Hooley, it does make it hard from an enforcement standpoint when there's not anything to enforce other than us just saying, hey, please don't set up. So that is something that could be looked at, but I would say, yeah, probably the bigger issue that we receive is the size that people are saving, and then the time that they are not showing up, that's lost opportunity for maybe somebody else to sit and enjoy.
That's a first whack this year to start talking about that early on in the whole evening MC stuff, to maybe just ask people to be nice first and see how that works. I think I know how that might work. I don't know.
I think
One can
restricting
ho-
the
one can
size
hope.
is a
One
big
can
thing.
hope.
Because
What's that?
I think restricting the size is a big thing. Having served on this committee for the last 5 years, you get there and you're there early, and there's people with, like you said, literally football-sized fields almost of just saved seating. And when they show up, they're literally setting up their cornhole tournaments or kickball or different things. And is there a logical way we can restrict the size to where, yeah, it's going to take some enforcement where you or your staff or city employees could sit there and say, anybody's reserving anything other than
10 by
a
10.
10 by 10, you will be restricted. Your ropes or your caution tape will be cut down to a 10 by 10 size.
I don't
That'd
think
be
we've
too-
ever-
I think it's a great way, or possibly after a certain time, it's a free-for-all, like you don't have your spot, but that would be hard to enforce as well.
Yeah,
I'm-
the enforcement's hard.
I'm totally comfortable with us doing more strategic education this year as a starting place, as opposed to slapping a bunch of rules on it. I would love to have some really solid education about the time of setup. People will violate it, I know, but the more people we educate, the better. But also, you could say, hey, if, citizens, set up. But a 10 by 10 per resident is enough. Per family, whatever it is. And I think if we asked them to only do a 10 by 10, I don't think we've literally ever even asked.
Yeah.
So I think we could start small and see how it goes. In my head, I see us evolving to have our fancy painting robot paint out 10 by 10 squares that are numbered, and residents can enter the raffle, and residents get to pick the first 100 squares, but we don't need to go there yet. Let's learn and see what might work. If you watch, I've been watching the rodeo chaos that's happening in Spanish Fork, where they're trying to implement some priority ticket drawing, and
It's not going
oh
well.
my gosh, there's no right answer right now. And so I really appreciate the maturity of the questions you're asking is what are we trying to solve? For me, it's giving our community, our residents, first right to access. Maybe the first step is to simply say, okay, people be aware, be sensitive, 10 by 10 per household, and that's it. And just see if we can get a little better control, better education, more signage throughout the city. I think there's a lot we can do to educate and just ask people to 10 by 10 for a household.
Yeah,
Let everybody come and enjoy the experience, 10 by 10.
yeah. I like that.
Eventually, I think there are plenty of things we can try, but I do not want to turn into the havoc that I am observing with our neighbors. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think on that point, obviously, your typical canopies are a 10 by 10, so I can
That's why
envision
I'm going
doing
with
some,
that, yeah.
some messaging and some videos of, this is the
Have fun
canopy
with
you
it.
have in your garage. Look how much space is actually underneath here. And, we could probably,
Hilarious.
I'm sure we could do some funny humanizing approaches to it.
Well, and they'd be memorable too. You guys are doing a great job with adding humor to communicate a story or whatever. So I think that'd be great.
Okay. Any other feedback from any other councils? That seemed like a good first step? Okay, awesome. I appreciate that. So just wanted to then go through a little bit of Pioneer Days. So this is the official logo this year. We just got it cleaned up and back today, actually. So all of our registration opened up today for all of our events. So you'll start to see a little bit more messaging go out via social media. It'll be in the newsletter and different things in the coming months. But all of our pre-sale opened up today. That will close on June 1st. So that's all of our punch passes, wristbands, things at the park on Saturday during the day. And then one thing that we learned in the past couple years, trying to, again, ask questions on how people learn about it, is the magazine initially was meant to be just a guide to the week. And what we learned is people actually rely on that to then act on what's happening. And so we've tried to move that deadline up a little bit so that it's hitting mailboxes so that they can act on it. And the last 2 years that we've done that, we've seen a measurable increase in participation. So this year it'll be moved up a little bit. It does put a lot more stress on staff to make sure we've got all of our sponsors and things in line, but right now we're trending in a good direction. Destiny's been great to work through, making sure we know what timeline the print shop and post office and stuff needs it. But so we anticipate magazines to hit mid-June, and then July 10th through 18th is the party. So those are the dates. This year we're celebrating 125 years of Mapleton, but obviously the America 250, and that's kind of where the flag inside the 125 came, and then the theme for this year was Together We Thrive. So a couple new things that are added this year. Every year we're like, we've got plenty, and then we have great volunteers and ideas that pop up and are like, let's find a way to make it happen. And so that's what we had this year. So we've got an essay contest that is in conjunction with our America 250. That'll probably be the very first thing you'll see a lot of promotion on, because we want to get those submitted, have a chance to review them. That'll be something that will, have the winning recipient be able to come in, read it at council, find some other publicity, put that in the magazine, things of that nature. Our Pioneer Festival is a new thing this year that will be on the Saturday prior, so it'll be on July 11th. And that's going to be at City Park. That'll be really centered around Pioneer-themed activities. Some of the feedback we've gotten on Saturday Fun in the Park is we almost have two identities. We have this modern-day carnival bounce house feel and the butter churn and Pioneer games over here, and people, I don't feel like we've done a good job of being able to give people adequate time to do that. And so this is a response to that. Been working with the DUP and the SUP. They'll be able to bring in some vendors and different things. And so I actually see that one being an awesome new addition and really pays tribute to our heritage and, how we got here. So I think that'll be a fun one. In conjunction with the cornhole, we're going to have a car show that will be kind of on the perimeters of the cornhole. In talking with some other neighboring agencies and people that do it, always a great turnout. Crowds usually love the car shows. Really, for us, there's pretty low barrier to entry. It's just getting the cars out there and getting people to be able to look at them, so we're excited about that one. We are going to combine the flag ceremony with the sunset in the park on Sunday evening. Again, I feel like especially this year with America 250, the emphasis of really making sure that we honor the flag and what it means and all of that. I think it's a much better setting on that Sunday night, but we'll also do a flag raising the morning, just like we've traditionally done it, just won't have the program attached to it. They'll have a Lego Masters competition where people can submit their Lego creations. We'll put them on display here in City Hall for people to come look at. And then drone show. So those are the new events. Everything else as planned is what we've done. Our committee's doing a great job. Like I said, sometimes we have to corral them in on not coming up with such fun things, because at some point you have to know when is enough. But I think these are all good additions for this year, and hopefully we'll have good turnout. So any questions with Pioneer Days?
not really Pioneer Days, but with America 250, there's just a deep connection. Where are we on that with other things related to the 4th of July or the 5th for America's Potluck and all of that? Do we have things planned that we're going to push out to the community for those?
Potentially, because of the, when we're celebrating ours, we are going to try to primarily stick to our week-long. I've had some good conversations with the state on maybe some other ways that we can do it in conjunction. And so we may see a couple other things rolled out, but most of our stuff will focus during the Pioneer Day week for us.
I'd love to see us do something with that July 5th. There's a reason there's a break the fast situation happening with a large religion in the area that day. The United States is doing a whole America's Potluck. Everybody go have a meal with your neighbor on the same day. There's something really important about that. So I'd love, even if most of our stuff is the 20th, that to me is pretty important. Now the rest, Provo has Freedom Festival, and they're doing the 4th. Like, I don't want to compete with the actual 4th, but Sunday the 5th is supposed to be really grounded, hyper-local in your neighborhoods. And if we can do anything to, I don't know, get the message out or work with block chairs or different groups, I think it's a really big opportunity to bring community together.
Yeah, yeah.
And we talked to Logan a couple weeks ago about the chamber wanting to do a kickoff and working with the city on that Friday before to really focus on the 5th and just get community together in their own areas, but kind of do a kickoff together. So we have been talking about that.
Yeah, we can definitely do some more
And I don't
digging
think
on
it's-
how that can,
Yeah,
how can
I
that
think
can look.
it's low effort. I mean, it could be as little as, hey, let's everybody come to City Park. We'll set up some tables on the 5th, and people can all come, and everybody bring a side or something, and
Sure.
we'll provide some hot dogs for whoever shows up. Like, it doesn't have to be a huge thing. The idea is just get together, get to know people who
Yeah.
live there, or we can just encourage people to do it down their street or next to their neighbor. So I don't necessarily know what it is either. I just feel pretty strongly like that's a really important community thing nationwide. I want Mapleton to be a part of.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's great feedback.
Happy to help.
Okay, awesome. Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Great job.
Great job, Logan. I've been meeting with Logan and the committee, Pioneer Day Committee for a few months now, and it's awesome to see all the work going on behind the scenes. So really, really cool. Lots and lots of effort being put into this. So every time our Pioneer Day gets better and better, it's because all of the work that goes on. Okay, that's the end of our agenda items. So we will start with administrative reports. Rob, you want to go first?
Yeah, I've got a few things for you tonight. First off, 800 North Signal is up and running, actually working now. So
And it's not a April Fool's joke either.
it
It's
is not
actually
an April Fool's joke. They actually got it running yesterday. So that is up and running, and then we've got some repaving. There were some corrections that needed to be made to the slopes on the curbing and stuff, and so there's and just with when it was done through the winter, there's some repaving that'll happen here in a couple of weeks. But other than that, the project is done. We've got our pavement maintenance season is going to start up here soon. So we've got crack sealing that'll be starting within the next couple of weeks, is what we've been told, next 2 to 3 weeks. And then we have microseal, which is likely to start towards the end of May and go into June. And then we'll have our HA5 and our mill and overlay in the July-August timeframe. You may have seen, if you've driven down 1600 South, we are one of the high priority projects from the Stormwater Master Plan was to pipe the ditch through Chief Jackson's yard. It is the one non-piped section of what is our only connected storm drain in the city. And so our guys are working on doing that project right now. We will be bringing the Public Works Yard construction contract to you. We just had the bid opening on Monday, so we'll be bringing that to you next council meeting for approval. Got a good price. Got several that were much lower than what our estimates were, so it's great. And then I do have some information. I don't know if you would like it in an email. I do have some information on engine brakes, if you'd like me to go over it now, or if you want me to send that to you in an email. I guess looking to maybe either Corey or Theron is let me know. You want to talk about it right now? Let
Yeah,
me
say,
know.
let's, me, you, and Sean visit, and then we can put
Okay.
something together for the council, mayor and council.
Okay, because I have looked into what it would take. The ordinance is very specific, so we'll go over that. But,
Okay. And we'll make sure and get it to Doug after
Yep.
after we're done.
okay. And that's what I got.
Okay,
Is it my turn?
your turn.
Okay. With the legislative session over and us knowing what the governor has signed into law now, there's a lot of implications for cities, but the good news is, I would say it's even better a lot of times I'm saying, well, it could have been a whole lot worse, which is still true, but it actually was quite good. The things I was most anxious about didn't fly. And so there are some implications for us that we'll need to consider. One thing I was excited about that doesn't necessarily impact Mapleton, but if you remember controversially, the last minute at the end of the session last year, the local administrative advisor funding was cut in a retaliatory manner for cities who can't afford to have a administrator, and that funding was restored. We'll see if it sticks as renewable, but that was lovely. Some of the cool things I'm excited about, though, that came out of it, there's a lot of property tax revisions, administrative processes related to truth in taxation and associated rules, but the Utah League of Cities and Towns is taking it upon itself to do a property tax outreach plan, which will include public awareness videos to help educate the public on what their property tax dollars are, how they're used and everything, and we'll be able to use that deck across the state for every city. So as we talk about things like a truth in taxation coming up or something, there will be new educational materials that we'll be able to use. And then they're partnering also with the Tax Commission on training and materials for members about what truth in taxation looks like. So they're on top of it. And also they've published a new Making Sense of Dollars publication that had been sitting around for a while. So there's lots of good things that we've talked about needing to do, make sure everybody understands what their dollars are used for, that we'll have some new assets for, and those have actually already started. There's some cities who will be doing truth in taxation in the fall that are very excited to have some help educating residents about what that exactly means. We did have some land use modifications. The detached accessory units, I'm not concerned about that because we're pretty fine there. I'd already touched on truth in taxation. The ones I was concerned about property tax restrictions for cities, those died. So where it was saying, oh, well, you can only do X% and it has to be this to this, that was like illogical. Fortunately, those died. There were some tax amendments that went through about excess taxes and how it can be used. There are some Energy Council amendments. I'm not sure with our current conversations related to energy how that will impact us. Authorizing districts to issue revenue bonds for energy, but then there's also some interesting things that I'm not sure, again, how it'll apply, but districts cannot provide service to existing provider service territories. So there's some territorial, like if there's already a provider, you can, something I need to learn a lot more about. It doesn't smell great to me, but it is what it is. GOEO changed back to GOED, so we all have to change our language again. So economic opportunity is back to being economic development. Governmental immunity, that went through. So the one that Mayor and I had been watching, especially in public safety, been watching about our emergency medical services covered under governmental immunity. They are. And HB 79, the first sub, made it retroactive to 1985. So not only is it like, hey, it's immunity, but it goes backwards. There's an interesting one about disability litigation, which it wasn't totally unopposed, but when you have a litigious community, sometimes there are groups who will go out and look for opportunities to sue, especially if, for example, a city isn't ADA compliant with an old ramp. And there'll be people who deliberately go out and look for those opportunities, and they're looking for money, not a resolution and not a fix. And so this law, SB 68, passed, and it made it so that basically if someone is abusing through that kind of lawsuit, just trying to get money because a corner isn't ADA compliant, that they can't do that. And a city can recoup some of those costs. Otherwise, those costs are going back to every other taxpayer in the city. So you can sue to get it remediated, to get the situation fixed, but not just for cash. And so there are different opinions on that, but as a taxpayer, I appreciate that. Political signs amendments, you can now put your political signs in park strips. There's rules for that, but we'll have to have Camille change some things there. Transportation utility fees, that went through as we expected, what Representative Peterson was having go through last year, where it is legal to charge a transportation utility fee if you do this, this, and this. It has to be justified and all that. So now it actually is in law. We didn't necessarily need it up there because we were allowed to do it based on the courts, but now it is in law. There's already a ton of stuff going on with the interim. A lot of things that are preparatory for the Olympics, homelessness, transportation, infrastructure related to those will be ongoing, but definitely some things that affect us, but very pleased at some things that got squelched pretty fast. But. So as we're looking at all of our code, we can integrate some more. Okay, that's all.
Hey, Melanie.
All right, so Senior Citizens Lunch is April 9th, and so we've done a lot of different changes with the community growing, the numbers growing. They can call Camille Direct to reserve. They're trying to do registrations so that they know how much food to have, as well as register online. NYCC, that was mentioned earlier, there's been a lot of research studies. As we continue to grow, we have a lot of youth that we don't want to miss, that we want to be able to have them participate in the community in different avenues. And so, like you'd mentioned, there will be a discussion with the Youth City Council at their next upcoming meeting. But we're excited for the growth and be able to offer all these opportunities for different groups. And then the chamber, right now they're working on business bingo, and every year goes to elementary schools, and the kids are able to come in with their families and just interact with businesses, but also Mapleton participates in that, and they're able to just come in and talk about the city. So it's a great opportunity to talk about what's happening in the city, to have people interact here on our staff with the community members.
Great. Thanks, Melanie. Jake?
Just a reminder, 2 weeks from today is the groundbreaking for the new bike park, just before this meeting at 4:15 up at the bike park. And then council was copied on an email about a children's market that I think Logan and I will have a separate conversation about that to let you guys, I could give you an update on that later on.
Cool. Great. Just have one, I think it's worthy of mentioning. In worrying about water and water conservation, there's been in the years past, there's been a lot of requests for the fire department to do spray downs at school events and things like that. And there's a lot of water used in those events. So the decision was made to in the spirit of water conservation, to not do those spray downs this year, in hopes that we can preclude wasting a lot of water. So just wanted to mention that decision was made today. That's all I've got.
I don't have anything.
Over the last couple of months, I've been working with a subgroup of the NYCC regarding the library and some of their thoughts on the library, and it came at it was very timely because we've had some conversations as a council about some changes that we need to make here at the administration building. We've met, 4 or 5 times, and we've gone through a human-centered design process. It's a problem-solving process that has been a phenomenal experience. We just did the prototype last night. They'll come here in the next couple of weeks to do a presentation for the council, and I think you'll appreciate what they've contributed to it. It's been great. As far as power, Corey is in the process of coordinating or confirming a time to meet with Rocky Mountain Power, and we'll do that probably at the end of April. or so to start that conversation with Rocky Mountain Power. And just as a side note, this is not an administrative report, but I happened to be here at the city building the other day as Rob was leading a meeting here, and I thought, well, I'm just going to pop in here and observe. If you haven't had an opportunity to observe the bid opening process in our city, you might want to do that. I think our city's very transparent in our processes, but I would dare say that bid opening process, not exciting at all, but it is probably the most transparent process in this entire city. Clear and transparent. So if you haven't done that for your own interest, I think that as council members, we have a responsibility to our neighbors to be able to clarify misinformation. And as time goes on, oddly enough, during campaign season, things get kind of crazy. But we have an opportunity to really stand for what is really right and appeal to people's better natures rather than assumptions. So I knew it was transparent. It really is the most transparent thing we do as a city. Rob, right?
I haven't seen it. Will you let us know when you have the next ones come in, see if we can?
Yeah.
go? I
You
mean,
don't need to
I
bring
know the
popcorn.
process.
It's not a captivating
Did bring
process.
popcorn.
Bring a book.
Do bring popcorn.
Bring a book, bring something to snack on, but no, it's incredibly transparent. So I just thought I'd share that insight and encourage you to everybody to just come and observe for your own, we have a responsibility as people to stand for accurate, transparent information. That's all.
Okay, Sean, anything?
Two quick ones. One, you might see some dirt moving out on Highway 89, just north of Harvest Park. That's Eccles Paving's office building. They've had it approved for a number of years and are now getting to
It's
being able
moving
to do that. So awesome to have a local business expanding. It's just office buildings, so they're not expanding their yard in that area. And then the second one is we've approved a mixed-use, commercial, ground floor, residential above at 200 North Highway 89. And they're proposing to do a groundbreaking on, I think it's Monday, the April 13th at 2 o'clock, and they'd like to invite the mayor and council to that. I'll send out a formal invite once they've get it to us, but just FYI. That's all I've got.
Sean, question.
Yeah.
Did we ever get the what's happening in Mapleton section of the website that we were going to do, like the active projects and things that were approved? It was like almost there last we talked
We're
about.
almost there. We need to
Okay.
revisit.
3
it.
more weeks.
Yeah.
3 more weeks.
Yep.
Okay.
We'll trade. The code for that.
Okay.
I think one of the things we were looking at with that one was just our website, and whether we're
Yeah,
going to
as
do
we're
some.
looking at updates to that. That's all I got.
Corey?
Just a reminder, on Tuesday, April the 14th is our opportunity to meet with that Mapleton Junior High School class. With that said, that group, it's pretty impressive. Like I mentioned to you before, this group has to meet some criteria to belong to it. And it's tied through the National Junior Honor Society. And I'll email this out to you, but it's founded on 5 core pillars: scholarship, service, leadership, character, and citizenship. There's going to be 23 students coming on that morning, and they'll arrive here at 10:15. And from 10:15 to 12, what we'll do is do some breakout opportunities to allow each of the departments to kind of share what they do. What we're looking at, I think Councilmember Egbert mentioned last time, is maybe, so you're not having to be here for the entire 3 hours, but maybe come for the certain portions of that. What we were proposing is having a council member come to the areas where they're the liaison for those assignments. So we'll sit down, put that agenda together for you. You're welcome to stay for the whole thing, but recognize and respect you have a lot going on. But we'll just send the agenda out and discuss what time we'd have you come and present. You'll probably, based on the amount of time, although that seems like 3 hours is a long time, if we break it out into those departments, you're talking approximately about 20 minutes. With that said, so the way it's set up is from 10:15 to 12, we'll have those different departments. Then they're going to have a lunch from 12 to 12:30, and then from 12:30 to 1, they'll meet with the mayor and just go over kind of a question and answer. I'll send out some ideas of some of the things they brought up as far as some questions. how decisions get made if the city council doesn't agree on a particular item, so that'll be a fun one. Is any of you plan on pursuing state-level leaderships? And what pillars of this National Junior Honor Society would you feel are your greatest strengths? So going back to those 5 topics. And there's one other, a difference between the local versus state. And so we'll come up with some questions and maybe give each of you a question that you can participate in that way. So I'll get all this compiled, get it over to you. Do you have any questions for me
Sounds fun.
with that one? Okay, that's all I had. So.
Okay, Logan.
Just real quick, had Splash Color this last Saturday. Turned out great. The weather was awesome, had a good turnout. Really grateful for all of our staff and the U City Council. They did a great job. So it was just another good event. And then other than that, was just going to mention just the groundbreaking, and then we can report back on that Children's Entrepreneur Fair on maybe what steps could be taken there. So that's all I got.
Awesome. Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.